My Father's work worldwide presents the long day of Joshua and how we were able to land on the moon. The next time someone asks you to prove the Bible is true and real, and they will, I have a story for you of scientific proof. Do you really believe God told the sun and moon to stand still and it actually did? I'm telling you, it did. Back in the 1970s, when I was a young man in my 20s, I met a rocket scientist from NASA. He had brought his car into my garage for a repair. I don't remember what the problem was, but it was to be one of the most interesting days of my life. I had either his engine or a head of his engine on my workbench. It was a job that took most of a day, and he stood there watching and talked to me the whole day. He told me how they were able to shoot at the moon and hit it at a good place to land. In my 20s, I didn't know that was a problem. I thought you just shot the rocket at it and hit it. My dad had told me how you had to lead a target which was moving. You have to shoot ahead of it and let it run into your shot. But I had never applied that to the moon. You know, it doesn't look like it's moving. No, I was not a rocket scientist in my 20s. I give you that. But I learned a lot that day. Yes, as I said, one of the most interesting days of my life. And this is the story. They had to figure out where the moon would be when they got there. Of course, they had to know how long it would take for them to get there, how fast the moon is moving, and how far it would have gotten when they arrived. Using their formulas, algebraic formulas, I guess, to figure out how they could be there at the right time to hit the moon at a good place to set down. Here's the problem. They could not get those formulas to work out right, and they couldn't leave until they did. They tried everything they could think of, but they just wouldn't work out right. Then this black lady came up to them. She was sweeping or cleaning the floor, I don't remember. I guess she was a member of housekeeping. She said, "Have you calculated in the long day of Joshua? An extra 24 hours." Well, no, they hadn't. I guess they were too educated for that. Joshua in the Old Testament, Joshua chapter 10, verse 12. Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord had delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said, in the sight of Israel, the Lord did, "Sun, stand you still upon Gibeon, and you, moon, in the valley of Ajalon." Joshua chapter 10, verse 13. And the moon stood still, the sun stood still, and the moon stayed until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Jasher? Well, I didn't know what the book of Jasher was, so I looked it up and I read some of it and found that it was nothing new from the other books of the Old Testament. So I think they purposely left it out of there. It's known as the Lost Book of Jasher. I really don't think it was lost. I think it was left out on purpose, because it's just a rehash of what the other books said. So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven and hasted not to go down about a whole day, 24 hours. So this lady told the scientists to plug in to their formula another 24 hours. And that did it. The formula worked out. And of course, the rocket landed on the moon at the right spot. Scientific proof of the Bible. Of course, fools will always argue, but then that's their problem, isn't it? The problem of being a fool. Some today refuse to believe we landed on the moon. I believe that's because they think it's impossible. I believe we did because I believe today nothing is impossible for mankind that they can imagine to do. I guess we can imagine to do. Only our imagination keeps us from inventing and accomplishing the impossible. In Genesis chapter 11, first book of the Bible, first book of the Old Testament, Genesis chapter 11, verse 6, God said nothing would be impossible for mankind. Verse 6. And the Lord said, Behold, the people are one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. That was to build a tower into the heavens. And now nothing will be restrained from them. Nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. People who refuse to believe we landed on the moon ignorantly believe it's just not possible, even though it's relatively a small thing compared to the many other things we've done. I believe God rather than people. God said nothing would be impossible for mankind, and I choose to believe our Father in heaven over ignorant, unlearned people. Now, I'm definitely not a rocket scientist, but I am educated. I do have some knowledge, especially of the Bible. That's why I teach the Bible and not rocket science. All of my videos are on rumble.com, like the banner says. That's rumble.com/My Father's Work Worldwide. Please be sure to subscribe and like, thumbs up, and follow. It's very important. Subscribe and follow are very important. And the most important thing, I believe, is to share. Share the truth of the history of mankind. Share the gospel of the kingdom of God We must get it around the whole world, and you can have part in that. No, I'm not asking for your money. I don't take donations. I don't take donations. I perform this ministry with my retirement. That's it. I don't want anybody else's money. So it's very important that you share to get it to as many people as possible. And that way you have part in sharing to the world this most important knowledge. And that being said, goodbye.